Welcome to EntreProgrammers Podcast, the podcast for developreneurs, with your hosts, Josh Earl, Derick Bailey, and John Sonmez, the podcast where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of three developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
The EntreProgrammers Podcast is brought to you by Signalleaf.com. It's not just the best audio host for your podcast, it's also the only podcast host that we'll talk about during the EntreProgrammers Podcast, because Signalleaf is one of the services that I'm building and often used as fodder for information that we talk about during the EntreProgrammers Podcast. So check it out at Signalleaf.com. It's podcast hosting without the headaches.
I'm on a Surface Pro 3, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm holding it in my hands.
Nice. Fortunately, it's a nice small tablet since you have to hold it for 90 minutes, so...
Yeah, it's actually, it's not bad. We'll see. I'm going to have a real good review for Surface Pro 3 at the end of this couple of months.
Yeah.
This is going to be my only computer in Hawaii.
Sweet.
So.
Yep.
Right.
You got the i5, right, on that one?
Yeah, because the other one wasn't available yet. Plus,
yeah, it's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking I might get the spec'd out i7.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I was like, well, I didn't want to wait, and this gave me a convenient excuse for not waiting. But then I also thought that the price difference was not really probably worth the...
Yeah.
I think with the one I have, I had to upgrade the SSD because I think the base was 128. I think I've got the 256,
okay,
and then the i5. So I think everything all together, including the keyboard, which you need, obviously,
right,
the trackpad, cost me like $1,200, maybe right around 13.
Yeah,
so,
well then you'll probably get the docking station, I imagine, as well when that comes out.
I think so. Yeah. I tried hooking this up to a 4K monitor, and it seems like it's a bit laggy.
Okay.
That. So I don't know if this thing. I mean, it powers a 4K monitor, but I don't think it really powers a 4K monitor.
Right.
I'll have to test it some more, but.
Cool.
So Derick, looks like you're in a poker room.
Yeah, actually, that's correct. This is it's now my dad's office, but when he originally built this room, he had a poker table in here, and this is where they played every Monday night for like 10 years.
Nice.
Cool. And John, you're at your parents' house or your wife's parents' house? Or?
I'm at my sister-in-law's house right now in California, in Oakley, California. So.
Cool.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm at my house, so.
Yes.
Oh, speaking
Josh
of which,
the only one at home.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I got to tell you my nightmare flying. I don't know if you guys saw my tweets. So we're taking a flight from Tampa to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta to San Francisco, right?
Okay.
So we wake up at like 3 a.m. to get in the taxi at 4 a.m. Right? I've got a 3-year-old, and we get to the airport to get our flight, right? And we go to Atlanta, which is fine. It's we're just a little bit early, so it's not a huge deal. But if your flight leaves at 6:30, you got to be early enough. So then we get to Atlanta, right? And our flight to SFO is supposed to leave at 9:10. Okay, so we're all ready. We've got about an hour layover by the time we get there, and then they tell us it's been delayed because there's a mechanical issue that they're working on, right? Mm-hmm. But they're not sure how long, right? But it shouldn't be too much longer, but perhaps 2 hours. So, 2 hours is kind of right. So okay, so maybe the flight's gonna leave at 11:30, they say, instead of 9:10. Okay, well, there's nothing you can really do about that. No point changing tickets or anything, trying to get around that. So then, they come back at like 11 or so, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're still working on it. We've got another flight that's coming in that's delayed that we're gonna use, and that's coming in at 1:30. So your flight will be leaving around 2. We hope."
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
So crazy, right? So 2 o'clock now is the time. A flight's supposed to leave at 9:10. So they're keeping everyone here. They haven't rebooked us or anything, right? They've basically been stringing us along. Then 2 o'clock rolls around, and then they board the plane, right? So we're sitting there on the plane, and we're getting ready to take off on the tarmac. And then half an hour rolls by. We're like, okay, everyone's seated. They're not saying anything. An hour rolls by on the tarmac, right?
Who are you flying with, by the way?
SouthWest.
Okay.
I'm happy to smear their name.
We have another anti-sponsor.
Yeah. So then the pilot leaves. Right?
What?
We're like, what the hell? What just happened? And then the flight attendant gets on, or the second pilot, the second in command pilot, whatever.
Right.
He gets on the thing and he's like, if you just noticed the pilot left, it's because we figured out that he's been flying too long and he's over his hours, and so we need to find another pilot for this plane.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so then it takes another hour and a half before there's another pilot.
Oh
and then
my gosh.
So the flight that was scheduled for 9:10 leaves at past 4 o'clock.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, insane. Right?
Fortunately, you weren't flying with kids, right?
Fortunately, my 3-year-old daughter found a little 4-year-old friend, and they were running around the airport. But had that not happened, I probably would have had to murder someone.
Yeah.
But is that the most insane? I mean, have you ever heard of flight? It's not that it's the fact that they didn't.
There's lack of communication.
Yeah, and you, at some point you just give up. You're like, man, we screwed up, guys. Like, go find another flight. We'll help you. Like,
right.
Or
Yeah.
we'll put you on another airline or whatever. But no, they're like, no, wait here. It's like when you're like, wait here while I fix it. So, no, I got it figured out now this time, right? And you're like making for hours while you fix some crap. So
Wow.
yeah, it was fun.
Well,
Yay.
Hopefully the trip over to Hawaii will be less
eventful.
horrible. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm not flying Southwest, so it's Alaska Airlines. So.
Right.
You sure you're going to Hawaii, right?
That'd be an unfortunate. Hey, it's freaking cold.
What?
What the
I've
hell?
got cousins from Alaska here in Kansas, which is why I'm here. So maybe you'll end up in Alaska and I'll go to Hawaii.
So how's your guys' week been?
You go first, Derick.
Mostly non-existent. Haven't done a whole lot this week. I launched my giveaway for the Backbone ebook collection after seeing Josh's ridiculous numbers on the mailing list. I kind of like, okay, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm just going to go ahead and launch this. So I did that yesterday, like at 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and eventually started getting some good numbers. I got Peter Cooper to retweet one of my tweets from JS Daily, which
Nice.
bumped it up pretty quickly. So right now, after just over 24 hours, I'm looking at 1,100 contestants with
That's good.
2,200 entries. So that means, which is weird because it's a little over double the number of entries, which means that less than I actually can't even do the math, because every time somebody gets a referral, it's 3 more entries for that person. So that's 3 plus the
Right.
1 that they referred is 4.
Right.
So there's I guess 25% of the people that are entering are getting 1 referral on average, since I'm sitting at double the number of contestants that I have for entries.
It's like that. There's a way to figure this out. It's like Susie's twice as old as her brother. Her brother's half as old as Kim. But I don't know.
How old is Susie's mom's dog's aunt? What?
I always hated those questions.
I did too. Those are awful.
Here's the big question though: How many of the entrants are people who are already on your email list, or do you have any idea?
I have no idea. I haven't done any kind of.
You can, what you could do, you could export the Excel file, grab all the addresses, and then MailChimp, I noticed today that MailChimp has a feature that lets you dump in email subscribers to build a segment.
Okay.
So you could do that. You could just copy and paste all those into MailChimp to build your own custom segment, and it'll tell you how many people. Probably would tell you how many people you got.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess probably a decent chunk of those, but I'm thinking probably only maybe like 100 to 200 would be my guess, but.
Yeah, I mean, I did send out the email announcement to 2,500 people.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you figure how many people opened it and how many people clicked through and how many people entered.
Right. So it had 253 clicks.
Okay.
So there's potentially a couple of hundred people.
Yeah, I mean, if you clicked it, there's probably 90% chance you entered, right? Because it's so easy. So the cost of bear, you've already given your email, so I would guess that. So then that's probably good then. So then you're probably going to get at least, I mean, how long are you running this contest?
Until August 4th, so like a week and a half.
Okay, so maybe you'll get like a couple of thousand email addresses. I mean, hopefully it'll be more, but I mean, worst case scenario, it might be a couple of thousand, so that'll be worth the price, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Clearly, it's not going to be a runaway success like Josh had.
Well, I would definitely recommend tweeting it multiple times if you haven't been doing that.
I have been.
Okay.
I've tweeted it like 4 or 5 times already.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen a lot lately is people have been looking at actual like tweet views, because Twitter released that analytics app now that you can actually see how many people see your tweets, and it's about 5% of your audience will typically see any given tweet. So if you tweet something 20 times, you might hit everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'll annoy everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the majority of what I've done this week. Since I'm at my parents' house, it's halfway vacation, halfway doing a little bit of work when I can. I did do a little bit of work on Signalleaf as well. There's the analytics service that I use, Keen.io. They have a built-in feature to turn an IP address into geolocation information, and to turn a user agent string into full data, operating system and browser and all that kind of stuff. So I turned both of those filters on for my Signalleaf tracking data, which means I now have the ability to give people a report about where their audience is and what operating systems and stuff they're using. Nice. So I need to put together the actual report for that, but I have the data collected now.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to combine some of that data with like solving that age-old problem of do you have subscribers or not? Because if you can figure out if they're coming from mobile, chances are people that are on mobile that are pulling your podcast down are subscribers. Because not most people do not browse on their mobile phone to a web page to listen to a podcast.
Right.
So, at least I think not.
No, I think you're right. Mobile is definitely the number one way to listen to a podcast at this point. And not surprisingly, like the vast majority of that is on iOS, either on an iPhone or an iPad. There was some guys at Blueberry, the CEO of Blueberry, did a report recently, like a month or two ago. They used a month of data from mobile devices to figure out what percentage was Android versus iOS versus whatever else, and it was staggeringly, overwhelmingly iOS number one for podcast listening.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. Actually, that's something I learned recently about Twitter too. Is the Twitter 78% of Twitter use is on mobile, according to Twitter, and then the majority of that is iOS, like vast majority, like 70 or 80% or something. It's crazy.
Wow.
People buy Android phones, they don't use them.
They use it as a phone probably, right?
They can't figure out how to install an app. That's must be the problem.
Yes, because it's so hard to go to the Google Play Store and click the install button.
Which you can install it from your browser, right? You can install things on Android. You can install things on your phone from your browser.
Can you?
From your PC browser. Yep. Just go to Google Play on your computer.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Find them and click install, and they install on your phone.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, actually, Windows Phone does that too.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of missed that, and I think actually
Nice.
Windows Phone might have done it first, but I'm not sure about that. iOS does not, as far as I know.
Right.
Well, speaking of podcasting, we have we should give a shout out to Kestrel, our super fan.
Yeah.
Since he said he's watched all the backlog. Well, because one guy had tweeted that he watched all the backlog, and now what? He's sad. And then
Yeah.
Kestrel said, "Well, I watched it all, and then I watched several episodes 4 times." So he qualifies as our super fan.
Yeah. Definitely.
Exactly.
He's done
Yeah.
a lot to help promote the show too. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should have him. One of my coworkers was suggesting, Jason was suggesting that we should do something special for him. I was thinking we could have him do a Signalleaf.
Heck yeah.
yeah.
So Castro, if you're listening, which we know you are.
Yeah. Well, we should help him promote his stuff too.
Yeah.
If he's got
Right,
you know,
totally.
promote, because that's cool.
Yeah, so the other guy, the guy that tweeted that he had listened to our entire backlog, that was Matthew Kramer. I've been emailing him back and forth for most of the week. It started out with him saying thanks for some of the other things that I had done, and then sending me $20 via PayPal to say thanks for the Mastering This email course, which is awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
And then he's also helping me out with some Signalleaf redesign stuff. He was listening to several of the more recent episodes where we're talking about Signalleaf and the things that I want to do with it from a marketing perspective, and he got pretty excited about it. So I sent him over the marketing analysis that my content strategist did a while back, and he started putting together a couple of mock-ups for how the Signalleaf website could look. So,
Oh, nice. He's a
Heck yeah.
designer?
Yeah, he does a little bit of everything for startups. He's got a number of small startups that he's done and a number of businesses that he's run in the past. And he recently started blogging about all of this. So I tweeted a couple of at least one of his blog posts in the last day where he was talking about Batman versus Bane in startup MVPs, minimum viable products. It was a really good post. And then he had a second post about how he launched one of his his software as a service apps. Can't talk today. And how he had launched with 2,200 people on his mailing list. And it went from 2,200 people on his mailing list down to like 2 people actually using the thing by the time everybody was done registering and setting up projects and actually starting to use it. It was an interesting blog post to see how even if you have a large list of people that are signed up for the beta, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a successful launch. You may end up launching to a whole lot of people signing up and never using it.
Right, but it's also kind of there's another side to it, which is you can kind of be hopeful that even out of 2,000, getting 2 means that if you had 200,000, right, you would have gotten 200, and there's
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's on one hand you can say it's kind of disappointing, but on the other hand, it's like the world is way, way bigger than most of us imagine. Like the most craziest idea. Like if you're aggressive enough, you can get. Not saying that his idea was crazy or bad, but you can actually make a business out of. People will pay for cat videos. There are enough people in the world. Well, look at the Sublime text with Josh. That was a great example. It's like, holy crap! I didn't realize that there were even close to this many people interested in Sublime text that you could.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I knew that it's had, you can look at the usage stats and see on the package manager website, they have install stats, and there have been like millions of installs of package manager. Now, I've personally installed it 10 times, so there's going to be people that are, bloating that up, but
Right.
even with that, there's, pretty good user base.
Pretty crazy.
Yep.
So that's my week. Not a whole lot to report. Mostly trying to keep the kids from killing each other.
Yeah. How about you, Josh? What's going on?
Oh man, so yeah, this has been a busy week. I'm gonna do a refresh on I just sent out my first email. Oops, darn, that's not what I meant to click. I just sent out my first email to my entire list of people.
You have 150,000, 160,000. What is it?
Yeah, so it's 100. So here's what I did. So I wound up the video back here. This one screen thing is so awkward. So I took all of I exported all of the contestants that I got. So I got about 30, about 3. I can tell you exactly, 3,000. Here we go. Okay, so I got about 364,104 total email addresses.
Holy crap!
So I exported that as a CSV and opened it up, and I had 66,300 confirmed addresses. So those were people who had clicked the confirm link, and then I had 297,000 unconfirmed addresses, and so some of those were people that weren't able to confirm because I was throwing server errors from the traffic for a lot of the contests. And I figured out why, actually. I think some of those probably mapped to, there was this one guy submitted 101,962 entries using variations of his Gmail address. So,
wow.
With dots in it and stuff?
Happily give out on the air is oldfatcrab@gmail.com. I hate this guy. He submitted 101,000 entries, and what he did was he put periods in his Gmail address, because you can do that. So O da 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 L da 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 da, and he did like 101,000 variations of that. So I had to go through. It took me like 2 or 3 hours to clean out all of the cruft from there were only really like a handful of people. Probably, the 80-20 curve applies nicely here. There were maybe, there were a lot of people who I could tell registered maybe 2 or 3 times. A few registered, more than that, and then there were 3 or 4 really bad abusers.
Yeah.
So I cleaned out what I could of those. The old fat crab one was really tough because it was crashing Excel. It was just crashing Excel to try to do any kind of find on that. So I put it. I took it into Sublime, and it was choking Sublime even. But I was able to. I did a bunch of find and replaces on the periods. 2 periods replaced with 1 period, and then I got it down to where it was manageable. And then I was able to kind of block select. I sorted them, by alphabetically, and then I was able to block select all his stuff and just delete it.
It's like an algorithm, battle of the algorithms, his algorithm to enter email addresses, your ability to use Sublime Text to filter email addresses. Yeah,
so I eventually prevailed in that struggle.
What a bastard! I wonder though, okay, there's 2 scenarios. One, he's a cheap bastard, right? And he's he writes code in order to save himself $60 on a Sublime Text license to try and game the system with a 50% chance of winning. Right, I guess.
Yeah.
And then number 2, well, actually less than 50%, because there's no way you're winning if you're doing it. Okay, I just answered my own question. He's not a cheap bastard. He's a grumpy bastard. He's a grumpy old bastard.
I mean, look at
his. He's trying to ruin your contest. That's all he was trying to do.
Yep. And I think that actually, now that I think back at it, the errors that I was getting from Varnish were not happening consistently. I think they were only happening when people were doing this kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
I think Varnish could handle way more than it was getting most of the time. But then, so this guy submitted all his entries within a couple minutes.
Wow.
So, so that killed my server.
Right.
You've got something to report to NOAA to get them to fix this, because they could easily fix that, because they could put an algorithm in there to
throttling or something.
Just the variations of the email addresses as well.
Yep.
To tell if someone's abusing, because the dots is the Gmail.
Yep.
See if doing that. But.
Yeah, I'll have to mention that to the guy I've been working with over there. So I ended up deleting 146,000 bogus entries. And And then I ended up, so that brought me down to 121,000 unconfirmed addresses and 66,000 confirmed. So I dumped all the unconfirmed addresses in the MailChimp thinking, okay, I'm going to send to all these and I'm going to get my account banned, but at least I'll know, I'll know which ones bounced. So I did that, and I got about 23,000 bounces, and then a bunch of unsubscribes, maybe I think 6,000 or 7,000 unsubscribes. So so that filtered that down to around 93,000.
And
how many times did you get called a spammer?
I only got a couple of angry emails, and I got 90 spam reports on the whole thing. It wasn't even it wasn't even 1/10 of 1%, I think.
Wow.
On the spam report. So yeah, it was not not as bad as I'd feared. And then I had to upgrade my MailChimp account to first to $600 a month to send the initial email, then to $750 a month for the second batch that I imported. So so currently I'm sitting at around 159,000, and I just sent out an email today announcing the winner of the contest. And that just went out an hour or two ago, so I'll give you a quick update. So far I've gotten 23,000 opens on that, and only 300 bounces, which is good, and then 2,700 unsubscribes. So I'm trying to flush out. Honestly, I'd be happy to flush out as many people as I can, who don't want to be on that list. I want to try to annoy them into unsubscribing. So then I'm going to send, I have this account with MailChimp now for a month. I can do whatever I want almost. So I'm going to send another 6 or so emails out over the next 2 weeks to try to make sure that people unsubscribe if they don't want to be on the list.
Right. So I've been thinking about what I'm going to do with that at the end of my contest. So I'm hoping I'll have a few thousand subscribers to deal with. And my plan is to put together a couple of probably 4 or 5 emails that will just go to the people that signed up through this contest. And I'll have those spaced out to go 2 or 3 times a week or however often it'll be. And then at the end of that, I'll import, or not import, but I'll probably have all of this in one list, but just have them segmented. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that, I'll take them out of that segment so that they start getting all of the normal emails.
Yeah, that's a good plan. I am personally planning to go and just select all of the after I send the 8 emails or so, I'm going to go and find all the 2-star subscribers, which means they didn't open any email, and I'm going to delete them. So that way, that'll probably get my list down to around. I'm thinking it'll end up shaking out around 60 to 80,000.
Right.
Once we get through all the filtering and everything. But that should be a pretty responsive group, at least as far as opens and clicks. I don't know if they're going to be buyers or not. So
well, send them your best stuff for the next couple of weeks here.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Take the collection of your best, most open, most clicked stuff, and give them the taste of it, and then you can be a lot more confident, and you can get them on the right track, I think. Because well, the thing is too, I've been thinking about this a lot. If someone's on your list for long enough and they're reading your emails, they will buy. It's almost every list that I'm on, I eventually buy the guy's product.
But you have money to buy stuff.
Well,
so
as long as I suppose if you're not, we talked about the segments across the world before, but if you're U.S., UK, Australia, mostly, Norwegian countries, it's much more likely. So
I can tell you. So currently, for all of these emails, actually, let me look at the other one real quick. So I have seen the preponderance of my subscribers have definitely been in the U.S. Currently, now this is granted. This went out just now in the U.S. In kind of in the day for the U.S. So it's at 74% U.S. and then only 2.4% Brazil, and then everything else is lower. So I want to look at my previous email to the unconfirmed. Let me pull that up and just tell you what the breakdown is. So so I was thinking that most of these were coming from, the Russia. Sublime is really big in Russia, actually. If you look at at the map, like the Google Trends map for Sublime text searches, Russia is one of the biggest countries that pops up. Yeah, here we go. So pull this up, view report on this one. So I was thinking maybe a lot of my subscribers were coming from there. Yeah. Okay. So on the unconfirmed addresses, in terms of opens, 61% were in the U.S. and then Brazil was 4.4%, and everything else was lower than that.
Huh.
So these are definitely, it's definitely heavily U.S. based. So I don't know. We'll see. I've been battling despair all week because. So after our last episode from last week, I sent out an email. My first email went out to my first batch of subscribers, and I had I'd sent out them 2 content emails, and then I sent out this third content email, a third email, which was a 30% off discount offer on my book. Yeah. And I got out of 2,500 new subscribers, I got 14 sales total. So
right.
I was thinking it was going to be, I was hoping that my numbers from the previous weeks would hold, and that it would be more 100 sales.
Yeah.
So, or even 50 or 60, some percentage, but it was less than 1% took bid on that offer. So that was pretty discouraging. And then on Monday we did an experiment with John's product. We threw that I threw an affiliate offer at the bottom of that email to that same group of people. Nobody bid on that. We got over 100 click-throughs, but no takers. So we'll see if I can do anything with this list long term.
Well, I think too. I mean, okay, comparing. I was thinking about this a lot. Your previous batch that you had sent through, and you got a much higher rate, like a 3% conversion rate, I think.
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those people were they seasoned on your list? Had they gotten multiple emails?
No, they got the exact same. They got the exact same sequence, and they found me through. I mean, they weren't. So of the 2,500 people that I sent the sale offer to, 1,500 had just signed up for my list themselves by finding it during the contest, because I got almost 500,000 page views to my site during that contest. So a lot of people were just exploring, even though there were no links anywhere. They just explored and found and signed up for the list themselves. So there were 1,500 of those people, and then about 950 people from the contest itself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a good mix, actually. A good sample of what I might be able to expect from the rest of the list. And they didn't bite. And it was the previous small sample that I had bought at a 4% rate, and then this group didn't really buy much. So.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things to think about on that. One is that, probably you're right to some regard in that email you sent this week or last week about the if you give away free stuff, then you get free more people that of lower quality that are looking for free. I mean, I would never click on a chance to win a license of something by entering my email address. I just wouldn't, because I would just buy it if I want it instead of trying to get it free and waiting a week or whatever. Right. But so that cuts that right there. And then but I think that there is still some hope, because like I said, you send out your best emails to this list, and you can still win a lot of these people over to your side and to make them become believers in. Yeah. Yep. So and I think there's definitely been some good long-term benefits from this. I think my traffic's going to see a permanent boost from it. I'm thinking I'm going to at least double long-term. I was getting around 20,000 hits a month on my site, and based on the last week traffic, it's probably going to be around 50 to 60,000. Wow.
So I think that'll be beneficial. I more than doubled my Twitter followers. I went from 13,000 to 32,000 roughly. Wow, that's insane. So that's free. That's guaranteed free traffic now. Anytime I tweet anything, it'll get twice as much attention. So yeah, and then So today I found a blog post. The Sublime team is saying we're not dead yet.
That's good.
Yeah, they posted on the forum again, reiterating that they're still working on version 3, and they're going to hopefully have another version out in August, an update on the beta. So I'm thinking, if people get more confident that it's not dying. So yeah, and then I'm still working with John McIntyre, and I tried my best this week to convince him that I should abandon this audience and do something else. And so we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it, and he had some really good stuff to say, and he basically thought that I would be same thing you guys have said. I'd be kind of crazy to give up on it now. But one thing he said that really hit home for me actually was that if I jump ship on this, I'm probably going to recreate exactly what I have now. I will, because I'm hitting barriers now that I need to push through. And if I don't, even if I end up failing and not really making any more money with this, if I don't push through the barriers, I'm going to recreate the exact same scenario, and it's going to just take me another year or two to get there.
Yes, exactly. You feel like that 4-time divorcee.
Yeah. The problem is it's not me, it's them, right?
Right. Yeah, so I've actually been thinking about exactly that same thing for the last week. I've had a number of people over however long tell me that I should just give up on Signalleaf. It's not worth it. There's no market. There's blah blah blah. All these different reasons that people tell me I should give up and go find something that people actually want. And while part of me says, yeah, okay, I see your point. The other part of me says, what good is that going to do me? Why should I abandon what I've already got going to start something new just so I can make the same mistakes and have to start over and go through all of this again?
Right.
There's more lessons to be learned from sticking with Signalleaf, even if it just turns out to be an investment in my own education. It's far more valuable for me to stick with this and to push through all of these things with marketing and research and everything that I'm trying to do with this than it would be for me to try to dump Signalleaf and try to find something that would be an instant success.
Right.
Instant success is nice, but what do you learn from that other than you got lucky and found instant success? You don't really learn the hard lessons of how to market properly and how to design properly and how to really get people's attention and create fans and all those things that we really need to do when building a service like this.
Yeah, so that's interesting because what would happen would be so your thing, like when you start over, right? You do the part that you like the best and it comes easiest.
Right.
So if I started over, I'd build a big list and then I wouldn't have any products to sell to them, right?
Right.
And if you started over, you'd build another app and then not know how to market it.
Exactly. So what good would that do?
Yeah.
It would do me absolutely no good. So even if Signalleaf ends up, not making any money long term, 2, 3, 4 years from now, whatever, oh well, I'm learning more from this than I would by giving up and starting over on something else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you've pushed it as far as you can, then you can make the decision.
Right.
And it really is. I mean, it is more about the journey than the destination. As I'm definitely finding out too, is it's like, because then once you get to, like, I'm kind of feeling like at the point where, like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, I've reached my goal now. Like, from a financial perspective, I have to start refocusing and realizing it's not really about that so much. I mean, it's about, like, what the process. It's the work that you enjoy doing, like breaking through the barriers. Those type of things that are really the value. Plus, if you have those overnight successes, like, you can never feel like you did it. Like, if you make Signalleaf work and you start making money and it becomes a successful company, you'll have, like, it'll feel good. Like, it'll be rewarding. But if you come up with some other idea and it's an overnight success and you make millions on it, I mean, you'll have millions. That'll be great, but you'll kind of feel like a fraud the whole time because you'll never really be able to enjoy it because you'll always think in the back of your head, would I be able to do this again? Or if I didn't get lucky, would I be able to do this? But like if you make it through with Signalleaf, you'd be able to say to yourself, hey, I could start another company tomorrow, and in 5 years I would have it better than Signalleaf. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, because I know how to overcome all these obstacles. So
it's funny you mentioned that, because I've actually kind of felt that way all along, because I stumbled into Sublime, accidentally, really, through just blog posts, doing blog posts about it, and then, it's gone how it's gone, and it's done well for me, but and now I've kind of gotten that again with this contest. It's like, that's not exactly a repeatable event. It's a useful technique, but I don't think I'll ever see anything probably this big again from that approach. So, I mean, I do think that the unpredictable random stuff is part of the whole equation. You got to put yourself in a position that stuff can happen. But
right. But you have to have some confidence that those things can happen too.
Right.
Like if you just get lucky one time, and that's your success, that's not good enough. Right.
Yep. Yeah. So So I'm not giving up. John's been beating me up pretty good too about needing to get some upsells going and get an actual funnel with a back end. I need a back end to my business. Like, one book is not a business, and I have 2 books, but one of them's pretty relatively low. It's even more of a niche. It's a niche within a niche. So I did. So I got a survey together. I put together a MailChimp survey, a SurveyMonkey. Too many monkeys. SurveyMonkey survey this week, and sent that out to a bunch of people on my original list, and then I'm going to be tweeting that out throughout the week, and then also blasting it out to this huge list. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But I've gotten some useful data out of it. It's not been super surprising, but one thing that confirmed my suspicion. So I asked people what their number one question was about Sublime, and the only repeated response I got was, "Is Sublime dead?" I got more than 10% of people, like close to 15% of people in a free form text field like that. Their answer was some sort of variation on that. So it definitely is a pretty big concern. It was the only answer that was repeated.
That's funny.
So I'm going to hopefully get, I've gotten about 80 or 90 responses to that already, and I'm hoping to get another couple hundred here this week, and then I'm going to go through all that and look for some patterns and some things I can use to start to make some more products. So I've got to crack the product creation nut. Like, I don't have time to write another book, given SitePoint and given all the other stuff I'm doing. So I've got to come up with something faster, and I'm kind of thinking that it might be interviews, like video screencast interviews with people, where I either have them, like I was thinking either contacting plugin authors and having them basically show me the ropes with their plugin, so I don't even have to learn it, right? Because that's right now, like that's a pain, like trying to come up with scenarios where this plugin might be useful. And then setting up examples and writing all that stuff up is taking me a lot of time, because I'm not a Rails developer, so I don't know what Rails developers care about necessarily. Right. But if I could find people, like if I can try to find some plugin authors or other folks who are really good with that particular language in Sublime, and just do a screencast with them, kind of just do it quick and easy. Do you guys have any recommendations for how I could do that technically? So
not really. I mean, unless you're sitting next to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it over Skype. Clearly, we're doing it over Google Hangouts right now. Right. Both of those work. There was an episode of TechPub back before they got bought by Pluralsight, where Rob Connery and I recorded the whole thing over Skype.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't pair programming. It was me talking with him while he was coding.
Mm-hmm.
So it was him recording him coding the
Right.
whole time, which I think worked out well.
Okay.
In your case, you would want them to be the ones recording, which
Right.
might not work out so well.
Right.
Because if they don't have experience doing recording, then you're kind of in trouble.
Right.
I mean, you can use a screen share like Join Me or something potentially.
Yeah.
That would be low quality.
Something like that.
Or maybe a GoToMeeting and then record the
Right.
higher
GoToMeeting
quality.
has options built in for recording it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are plenty of options out there for recording remote sessions like that. If you're both on a Mac, you can do the screen sharing in Messages, which is actually a two-way pair programming thing. That's actually what I did for 2 years with my clients. We would always use Messages whenever we were both on a Mac, and that way I could control their computer
Okay.
and talk them through it and write code for them and everything.
Are there any free, decent, like Camtasia style screen, like things I could have them install, or is it all
Free, yes, but decent, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're
QuickTime.
if they're on a Mac, QuickTime, you can record directly from QuickTime. Just record the entire screen and have them send the video to you. But you're gonna have to do a lot of editing from there.
Right.
Yeah. The biggest problem I think you'll face with this actually is not a technical issue. It's going to be a social issue because
Yeah, I agree.
not everyone can talk at all on video. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've run into this a couple of times where I'm like, wow, there's definitely like, because most of the people I interview and stuff, like for podcasts or for my course and stuff, are speakers.
Right.
Or like people who are pretty big names in the software development industry, so they
Yeah.
already like. But on the occasion where I've talked to someone who was just like a developer behind the scenes who had not really done any kind of, it's just so difficult. I mean, which you just have to. I mean, you might be able to elicit from them, or you might be able to do a lot of editing and coach them through it.
Right.
To talk naturally and to maybe more so answering your questions. Like you have very good leading questions, but
Right.
but the biggest problem I think you're going to have is just if someone's not really a speaker.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm kind of spoiled because I am very used to doing that through Trackabout.
Right.
We pair program a lot and screen share and talk all the time, so it's pretty natural. Yeah, I might be able to. One option would be to do this, still do what I'm suggesting, but then record it, but then actually just use actually re-record it just myself.
Yeah.
Re-record it in my own voice and use their examples and everything as a starting point.
Yeah, there's a CocoaConf podcast that is hosted on Signalleaf. And I've listened to a number of their episodes recently, and the way he does it, he'll have 4 or 5 segments in any given episode, and he starts out with these 30-minute long interviews of the people he's talking to, and he edits it down and edits it down and edits it down until he's got like 5 or 6 minutes of audio for any given interview. And the way it turns out is him talking and asking questions and then getting the edited audio from the person that he was talking to into the mix in order to provide the answers and provide more information. But it sounds very much like, I don't know if this is what he's actually doing, but it sounds like the end result sounds like he is going back and creating a story out of the interview and recording his own voice after the fact to create the story arc,
Right.
and then inserting the right information at the right time from the person that he interviewed.
Kind of like Rob Connery does with This Developer's Life.
Yeah, very much like that.
Okay.
Except he really, really condenses it down
Yeah.
for the CocoaConf podcast.
Here's a product idea for you, Josh.
Okay.
Because actually this is realistic because I would like to start using Sublime Text,
Mm-hmm.
I've installed it. I've got Atom installed as well. Like but I'm not going to touch either of them really. I said I'm just sticking to Notepad++ because I just don't have the time to like go. I want to master it in order to be able to use it to be more efficient. Because right now it's just easier to just open up Notepad and just do what I need to do.
Right.
So if you created a video series and you took it step by step from like basically like a guide, a course on mastering Sublime Text, like starting with keyboard, like the important keyboard shortcuts, like not from a reference, but from a very practical. Okay, here's how you basically like. This is why Sublime Text is more advantageous than Notepad++. Here's like day one, lesson one. Here's what you can do. Like you're just going to do a couple of exercises, and you have the exercises. Right, and then you take it through like maybe I don't know how many days or how many different lessons, but you basically build someone up to the point where they are proficient in Sublime Text and they can use it to maybe you show some real world example of like editing HTML or JavaScript or something like that in a workflow, and maybe you have a couple of branches of different workflows that you could include in there. But I could imagine you'd have some kind of base core that's like just the basic shortcuts, understanding a little bit about the plugins, a couple of useful plugins, and then it might branch off and say, okay, now if you're like a Python developer, if you're a Ruby developer, if you're a JavaScript developer, here's how you would use it. And that's where you might get experts to come in and show you how they do their workflows. You might have 5 or 6 different experts. So a lot of the content, like you'd be creating the core content that would be up front of the building steps to get up to the mastery, and then the really advanced stuff, you'd be using interviews or screen shares, and then you wouldn't have the issue as much because you'd be talking at a much higher level when you interview these people. So and so that'd be something that I'd be seriously interested in. I mean, I'd definitely pay like over $100 for that series just because I would like to use Sublime Text, and I would rather throw money at the problem than read through a book and try to figure it out on my own.
Right.
Yeah,
so this is actually one thing I've looked at for my survey. So I've been trying to figure out how many people, like where are people, what is it that they're actually wanting to learn, and so I asked a couple questions. I asked how long have you been using Sublime, and what topics are you most interested in learning more about. So I was surprised. So the answers for how long have you been using Sublime Text. So I had less than 1 month, 1 to 6 months, and more than 6 months. And almost 80%, 75% of people said more than 6 months.
Yep.
Wow.
So these are pros. Now this is on my existing list. So
that doesn't mean pros.
Well,
that means that they installed it and that they're using it. They might be using it just like Notepad though, like I am. Right? I have Sublime Text installed. Every once in a while I open up a file in there. And then I just save it and make a few edits. I don't do anything Sublime Texty.
Right.
Right.
So then I have this. Here's how I would rate my interest in the following topics: keyboard shortcuts, choosing the best plugins, customizing, streamlining my workflow, advanced editing, writing my own plugins, and getting started. So getting started is actually the least chosen answer. The 2 most popular are streamlining my workflow and choosing the best plugins.
Okay, so streamlining my workflow would definitely make a lot of sense, and the plugin part. That's why maybe something that starts at the beginning though, but then is called mastering Sublime Text.
Yeah, and definitely. So also people tended to prefer video over books or courses. I asked if they would enroll in a course, and the video was so far has been the highest rated option. So so I don't know. I need to figure out what to do with all that. I do know like the most popular resource that I've ever seen for anybody do for Sublime was like a 1 hour long video course that a guy named Jeffrey Way did. He's big in the PHP world, I think, and he runs
Laracasts.com, which is all about Laravel. It's screencasts for Laravel.
And he's done. So he did like an hour-long video course on Sublime, and that's available for free. I think he's got it up on Udemy and YouTube, and it's definitely the most talked about I see it on Twitter constantly. Like people are constantly talking about it. So, that I as much as I'm not really interested in doing video, that seems to be what this audience wants. And if I can figure out a way to do video in an efficient way where I'm not taking 3 months to do one stupid video, if I could do a video in a few hours with some planning and then put the video together, I don't think I would be initially going for a lot of polish on it. I don't know. It seems like that's what people want, though. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, go for it. I mean, if you can get some video put together and you can get something that you can charge like $100 or more for,
yeah,
I think then you're going to have a lot. I mean, you're really going to be able to. Plus, your audience is already asking for video, so.
Right.
It's an important skill to learn anyway. I mean, it's going to be valuable in more than one place, right? So, like, you learn how to screencast and how to do a little bit of video editing and stuff. There's going to be a learning curve, of course. Of course, both me and Derick are very experienced at it, so we'll be able to help you. So you've got an advantage there. But yeah, it's a valuable skill. It's definitely. I mean, because that's a product that you can put together, an information product that is goes for a much higher price than other media. So
yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, whatever. I mean, a book you can consume faster and takes more work to put together, arguably. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
That's true. But video is kind of the lazy man way, right? It's like I can just turn on a video and like I can just have the information spoon-fed to me.
Yeah. Says the guy who made all his money off of videos.
Well, it's true.
Yep.
I mean, I prefer for the most part not to watch video. I just learn something by it. But I guess topics, I don't know, certain topics, like I said, for the Sublime text, it does appeal to me, the idea of video, because it's not a highly technical thing. It's something that I just need to grasp and understand how people are doing and see it in action. Like if I can see someone using Sublime Text and how then I can get it. Whereas if I tried to read that in a book, I wouldn't quite. There's something about seeing someone's workflow, I think, in this case that makes a lot of sense. So
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's how I learned Vim and all of the Vim stuff that I do. There's a guy named Derick Wyatt that does a bunch of Vim screencasts, and I watched a whole lot of his Vim screencasts and picked up all the Vim skills from him. Yeah, he's pretty crazy.
I watched
very entertaining to watch.
They're great. Yeah, they're really good. So yeah, this is a problem though for me because I am not using Sublime all day, and I need to figure out a way to not look like an idiot, because I'm gonna be having to basically mock up workflows that I don't actually use myself. So that's my concern with doing video is I could end up being a real time sink on the preparation side. With writing, you can just kind of you can do chunks and pieces and piece it together and not have to actually look proficient. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, give it a try. Come up with give yourself a smaller piece that you'll release, right? Maybe as a sample or you'll charge $10 for. And then if that's successful or you get feedback from that, then you can expand that and you can. So this way you're not committed to a huge project up front.
Yeah, I need to do so for my so I mapped out a sales funnel with John McIntyre and in Visio and everything. I was real nerdy about it, and I need an entry level product. It's around $8 to $10 probably. So I'm thinking some kind of screencast of an overview of maybe 20 something like 20 Sublime plugins you need to be using right now type of thing.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, where I just because since the plugins thing came out so high, I could just do a 1 or 2 minute overview of each plugin, show a couple of use cases for each one, and move on to the next one. It would also be chunked up into pieces so I could fade between them and not have to do a big long one take recording type of thing. So I'm thinking I might try that just to start out.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you never want to do a big long one take recording.
Never, ever.
Yeah, 2 minutes, 3 minutes max for the most part, and you just script it out. You just you don't have to script out the words, but you just say, okay, like I'm going to create the update feature right now, or I'm going to modify this function to do this. You've got that kind of scripted out, and then you're going to record 2 or 3 minutes at a time, just going through that script of pieces. Because then, man, if you screw one up, you can just re-record that one segment. It's much easier, and then you don't end up throwing away 15 minutes worth of stuff when you're like, oh crap, I just screwed up.
Do you guys typically do? I guess there'll probably be different answers from each of you, but do you typically do a lot of takes of like a lot of retakes, or do you kind of try to do one take of each segment and then edit it down, or?
If it's something that I know extremely well and it's an example that I'm very familiar with, I've practiced it, or it's something that I'm doing for my actual job, I can usually just fly through it and not really have anything to deal with for edits. But on average, more than average, probably 80% of the time, it takes me 3 or 4 takes for every single segment to get it right. So I'll have 30 minutes worth of raw material that I send to my editor, and he sends it back to me with all of the mistakes taken out, and it's 8 minutes long, 10 minutes long. Mm-hmm. So I don't worry about the mistakes. I just whatever, go back. Okay, I'm going to reset to here, pick up from this edit point, go on. I talk to myself a little bit about what I'm thinking.
Okay. So that probably helps your editor a lot.
Yeah, it helps my editor a ton, because I've sent him videos in the past where I stop and then I restart somewhere, and he's like, where am I supposed to match this up?
Right.
So I started talking to myself and talking to him while I'm actually doing the takes. Like, okay, take this back. I'm going to go back here. I think this code was here was fine, but I missed this, so I need to redo that. Start here, and let's, he usually figures it out from what I say.
Okay. Yeah, that would be nice. Like with Sublime too, I could probably do like undo.
Yeah.
And then take it back. I think the one thing that would be tricky would probably be the mouse. If I use the mouse at all, that's going to jump around a little bit. But
that doesn't matter.
People don't notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
People really. My mouse jumps around like crazy, and people don't notice. They don't care.
Yeah. My first misconception about recording video was I thought, okay, since this is video and audio being recorded at the same time, I can't really edit this post, right? Because if I edit the audio, it will mess up the video.
Right.
Not really. You can pretty much edit the audio all you want. It's just little jumps don't even matter. Even when they're big jumps, they still don't matter. It still flows fairly smooth. I mean, you might throw a transition in there to make it, make the screen fuzz or whatever.
If it's a huge, crazy change, just do some kind of transition. Fade out, fade in.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing I do with it is I do one dry run. So and this will be first time I'm coding something, I'll code it through manually one time, right, without recording, and then I'll just record and I'll go through, and then I don't take multiple takes necessarily. I don't re-record the whole entire thing. I think the same way that Derick describes it. So my retakes are more like, oh man, screwed up here, and I'll talk to myself and I'll say, okay, going back, all right, and then doing this again, and then I'll start talking, and then I'll just put it all into one segment, and then just edit that section.
I think 90% of my retakes are the things that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not an eloquent speaker unless I practice and practice and practice and practice. I mean, I've said a million times this morning because I haven't had any caffeine today. So when I'm speaking eloquently, like at a conference, it's because I've practiced that talk 100 times, and so I know what I'm supposed to be saying. When I sit down to record a screencast, I retake the same sentence 6 or 8 times sometimes. And the code just sits there. I'm hands off the keyboard. I'm just trying to say the thing correctly.
Right. Okay.
And I'll send the entire bundle of garbage over to my editor and picks the one that sounds the best.
That actually, I mean, that all sounds like that all makes that sound way more doable than what I'm thinking.
It's like the whole sales funnel thing, right? It's like there's certain things you can do. You can get really good at speaking and doing demos. Or you can get really good at post-production, and either one of them can compensate for the other. I mean,
Right.
it's better if the more you improve along each step in the funnel, the better, obviously. But initially, your skills that you're going to want to develop will be in post-production and editing, because you could do an amazing amount of stuff. I mean, you could sometimes I'll record a Pluralsight video, and I'll be like, man, this is utter garbage. Like, this is crap. Like, I screwed up so many times. And then I'll go through and I'll edit it, and then I'll look at the final thing, and I'm like, wow, wait a minute. Did I actually do it at all? Like, I was like, this looks perfect. And so.
Yeah, there are times when I'll have the same sentence recorded 3 or 4 times, and I will literally cut and paste individual words out of different takes and rearrange them and put it together into a fluent sentence.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do. So don't worry too much about the polish on the front end. That will come with time. But get the editing skills on the back end. 'Cause, I mean, when I first started recording video, I recorded 15-minute segments, and then I re-recorded the 15-minute segments over and over if I said once, or if I did, because I didn't realize I could edit on the back end, or I didn't realize I could do much editing. So I basically re-recorded the same segment like 15 times of 15 minutes, right? And then I started to figure out what I could do on the back end, and then it was like, wow, I was wasting so much time trying to get things right on a single roll that it was just ridiculous. So.
Okay, so question. So would I be crazy to just try to outsource all of the editing?
No, I would outsource all of it. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Well, I don't do any editing myself.
You guys have both mentioned
I'll get you hooked up with my editor. I mean, literally, I sit down, I record an episode, I don't touch it. I send the raw material to my editor. He produces the final video for me. He puts in the music, he puts in the title slides, he puts in the transitions, he does everything for me because I've worked with him enough so that he knows exactly what I want.
Right.
He knows the different things that go in the different places, and I just send him the raw material.
So what might be what give me a ballpark figure for like a 20-minute video in terms of editing costs?
If you want a final product to be 20 minutes long, you're probably going to have 40 to 45 minutes of raw material, considering mistakes and things. And it takes him, probably looking at 3 to 4 hours of editing for 30 to 40 minutes of video, which would run $50 an hour, so $150 to $200.
Okay, that's not bad. That's affordable.
Yeah. Do it yourself first, though. Like, even if you're not good at it, like just a little bit at least.
I've done like a couple. You've seen my YouTube. I did a couple YouTube videos. Okay. That's the extent of my experience. So I've used Camtasia. I actually did a bit of it when I was at a previous job. I did a little bit of it with like Camtasia and Adobe Captivate, which is like more of a point and click kind of like almost more like PowerPoint type of demo. So I'm familiar with a little bit of it, but I hate it.
Yeah, I do too.
So John, what is the value? What do you think the value is of that? Just knowing what the editor has to work with, mainly.
Right.
Well, you need to be able to. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of have this philosophy. I don't always follow it myself, but I definitely try to, which is do something yourself before you hire someone to do it, because you can't ever know if people are doing things the right way, and you can't even know if the process is efficient or if it works out or if you're getting screwed. You know,
right.
I mean, even with like EntreProgrammers or with this podcast, like I went through and I did it like an episode to make sure. I should have probably done more than one episode, but David's doing a good job, so we don't have any problem. But I know what's involved in it, right? If I didn't know what was involved, then it would be harder to hire someone.
Yeah.
And to know it's actually, you need to know what's involved so you can fire someone more so than
for doing a bad job.
Right. Okay.
Like when I was doing my editing, when I hired for my Pluralsight videos to do editing. At first, I had my sister. I hired her to do editing for me. I taught her how to do it. I mean, she doesn't have any video editing experience, but I kind of and I was like, okay, well, I know that I can get this done in an hour. So if it takes you 3 hours, that needs to come down eventually, right? Like in a couple of weeks. And so I was able to chart it through. The other thing I would say is that it depends on, like, if you hand it over to someone, like, I'm sure Derick's editor is expert at this and at doing technical videos and whatnot, and then you probably don't have to worry as much. But if you have enough editing chops yourself, you might be able to then hire someone cheaper if you want to start out on Odesk or something for $15-20 an hour, and basically be able to correct or tell them what they're doing wrong, and get them to the point where they are the perfect editor for you. So you might end up getting someone that can produce pretty close to the same quality as Derick's guy for half the price, but you're going to have to train them to it.
Right.
So it's all about, about where you want to be able to save the money and the time.
Right.
Well, for me, definitely. Like, I mean, right now with SitePoint, I've been tracking my time a little bit more closely lately, and the 15 hours thing that's pretty solid. That's what I have. SitePoint's taking taking about 6 to 8 hours a week. So that leaves me with 6 to 8 hours of time to do anything else. So I think I probably would not be super interested in training someone to save the hourly cost, at least initially. Maybe maybe later on when I had a little bit more time to do that.
So for me, when I was doing all my own editing, it would take me 2 or 3 days worth of work, so 16 to 24 hours to edit 45 minutes of video down to 20 minutes. And the editor that I'm using now takes the same material, produces the same results in 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's no joke. He's that much more efficient at it than I am. I knew everything that I wanted. I had my editing process down, but it was just tedious, and I am really slow at it. He's really good at it. So if you can find somebody that's really good at it and work with that person so that they know what you want out of the video, it's going to be so much more worth the time and money.
The other piece that I consider too is if you're in a pinch, like, it depends on your time schedule and whatnot. Like, for the Pluralsight videos, I can't afford to have someone I can't afford to not know it, because if for some reason, or with a podcast too, right? Like Get Up and Code, like if someone can't do my editing for me, if I don't know how to do it, then it's not going to get done. So I have to be able to. There's been times where I've had to do it myself.
Right.
So you've got to at least have the very basic chops where you could do it yourself, or you got to have a backup person. If it's time, I guess in your case it might not matter if you're just trying to produce one course that you're going to sell, like, if you're doing any kind of series or anything like that, then it's critical.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right, my battery is down to 15% here. And
cool.
I think my wife is probably going to shoot me for being gone for so long.
All right. Should probably wrap it up.
Yep.
All right. I'll talk to you guys next week. I'll be in Hawaii, so we'll have to figure out.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out time zones and when you'll be awake and all that.
Yeah, because I'll be 2 hours behind where I am now. We started this at 8:30 a.m. my time, Pacific, so it'll be like 6:30. I mean, I might be able to do really early in the morning. I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
All right, guys.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code. Listen to John, Josh, and Derick.